This is what's wild in New Hampshire by wildlife biologists there aboard. A day on the lake. It happens to be in Maine. But yesterday, as I was coming up to camp, I get a urgent alert from the National Wildlife Federation about some goings on down in Washington. The Wildlife Federation, you know, the Ranger Rick folks, they're made up of sporting clubs across the country, so very trustworthy. Anyways, the alert is, and what are they thinking in Washington, this last week, as part of this whole budget structure thing, all that, guess what they took out this last week? They took out the funds for the Land and Water and Wildlife Fund. Tabled it, out of the budget, gone. We can't let that stay. If you're a hunter or fisherman like me, and I have been fishing on this lake, my folks live in this town. This is where they lived when I was born here in Maine. So 67 years I've fished on this lake, and it's not changed a whole lot. It's a great and wonderful place. But the Land and Water and Conservation Fund, what has it done? Land. The Land and Water Fund has provided millions of dollars across the country and hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions in New Hampshire, to protect and preserve land. And this is, they do matches for conservation commissions, for land trusts. It's the funding to protect the habitat that we need and that we hunt on as hunters, and the streams and rivers that we fish on as fishermen. It's the land. We need that funds. We need to continue to do that. And what happened here? The last 10 years, yeah, there have been more people, more hikers and mountain bikers and kayakers, more than I've ever seen in my lifetime. So the woods that were belonged to us hunters and fishermen, the woods and waters, we're now sharing with a lot more people. And guess what? During the pandemic, people found that protected public lands and waters is good medicine during a pandemic. And they joined us, and we welcome them because we want more people thinking about conservation, enjoying nature, connecting, being out there. We want more people to be hiking and biking and horseback riding on this land that has been protected and preserved by these funds. So this is what we got to do. We got to get a hold of our senators. Ginny, no. Get a hold of our senators and tell them, you need to fix this, and it's going to move fast. By the middle of next week, it'll be done. The Senate will go on recess, so by the middle of next week, probably Tuesday, so the calls need to happen today or this weekend, calls and emails, and that's what I did. When I saw this alert, when I got to camp, I conveyed the message to both of my senators, Hassan and Shaheen, that I want them to get at this and protect this funding for land and water and conservation. And okay, land we did. Water. You know, I grew up in Londonderry in the 60s. My best friend Rick Ham and I would fish Watts Brook down to the Merrimack River, and you couldn't stand on it. It was human waste, filled with human waste in the 60s into the early 70s. And when I went to college, the late 60s, my classmate Bill Ingham, he turned out to be a fisheries biologist at Fish and Game for 30 years. But we duck hunted on the Merrimack north of Concord. We would set our decoys out, GoldenEye decoys, in the dark of the morning. And when we pulled those decoys, the anchor lines would have stuff on it. You know what I mean. So our rivers were open sewers. The Clean Water Act in the early 70s helped clean up our rivers and restore the fish. And when you did that, what happened? We went from, we went from no bald eagles to 70 pairs of bald eagles because they eat fish. So you clean up the rivers, restock and return the fish populations, and eagles, 70 pairs, ospreys, I think 50, 60 pairs. They all are out and about. So we got more wildlife. So water, yeah, we need funds. You know, and these treatment plants were built in the early 70s. They're 50 years old. They need to be repaired and replaced and fixed. They do. So what else do we do? Land, water, and wildlife. These are the best of times. If you're a hunter or an outdoors person or a nature lover or a bird watcher, I just said we got 70 pairs of bald eagles, and we got over 50 pairs of ospreys, falcons, over 20 pairs. Down on the coast, we've gone from less than 10 pairs of common terns to now 4,000 pairs out at the Owlsville Show. So these are the best of times. We have more wildlife in New Hampshire than since before colonial times. It is awesome. It's taken 50 years of progress and funding, and for the water, the Clean Water Act, a federal act, federal leadership, federal money fixes these things. We need federal funding. We need to restore the funding for land and water and wildlife. And now we have from 40,000 to 120,000 deer, bears from 1,000 to 5,000 plus bears, turkeys from 0 to 50,000. We have lots of wildlife that we haven't had in 200 years right now, thanks to the funding that has been provided by not only the federal government, of course, our sportsmen across the country. So, tell you what, we need to double down right now. We need to get hold of our senators and give them a call today or tomorrow or by Tuesday. Give your senator a call or at least an email. You know, an email takes 4 or 5 minutes. You look up their email address, takes seconds. Let them know that we want them to double down on the efforts to restore funding for the land and water and wildlife funds in the budget. We should not let them get away with this down in Washington, D.C. We just can't. You know, we've come a long ways. We've made a lot of progress. Hey, we got momentum. Things are going in the right direction. We don't want to back up. Should we back up and have our rivers turn to open sewers again? No. Let's go forward. Will you call your senators or email them today or tomorrow or Sunday or Monday and have them get onto this? We need to fight this mistake down in Washington, D.C. Let's fix it. Let's call our representatives and let's get it fixed. This is wildlife biologist Eric Orr for what's wild in New Hampshire and in Maine. I'm at camp. Oh yeah.